I need some wood for the tabletop, and that means road trip. It's time to fire up the Skoda. Standard intro montage with random drone footage, but not too much. Absolutely. And the shot that you've been waiting for. I stashed my wood at a mate's place down on the coast. I really should give him that case of beers. This is a slab of northern rata. You probably know it as Metrosideros robusta. And it's hard. I mean, ceramic tiles hard. For the other part of the tabletop, I'm going to use a couple of slabs of matai. You cannot beat ratchet tie downs. We'll see you again, Coromandel Peninsula, North Island's best kept secret. Before I work on the tabletop, I must reinforce those table leg joints. For this part, I thought about building a tricky jig so I could utilize some sort of router wizardry, but then I thought, nah, I'll just wing it with the Japanese fret saw. I'm not really the kind of person to wing anything, but on this occasion it really was the only option, so I had to be extremely careful. In retrospect, tape would have been a fantastic idea here, but there's nothing like flying by the seat of your pants. I'm extremely happy that this turned out pretty good. Sometimes you just got to back yourself. I finished off the slotting with the good old hacksaw. This little piece of equipment is fantastic, essential for any kind of chisel work. It's time to break out my grandfather's whetstone. Invaluable. And as fate always has the last laugh, yes indeed, I did slice my finger. It's right about now when I thought, if I'm not careful, things could go really, really pear-shaped. So I had to protect that edge as best I could. So I was ultra careful on this sloped bit. This process took me about 3.5 hours per leg. Now they are all ready to commence reinforcement. I know it's unlike me, but I'm going to reinforce these joints with carbon fibre. And before I do anything with resin, I'm going to need to seal the joint area, and I'm going to use shellac, quite possibly the world's greatest sealer. Before we do any shellacking, I'm just going to smooth the wood around the joint down to about 400 grit, and that's going to help stop that shellac soaking into the wood too much. I use a very complicated formula to come up with the 50-50 ratio of shellac flakes to ethanol, and the beauty of using shellac flakes is that you can make up as much or as little as you want. And this stuff's called Amazing Haste. And is it amazing? Well, I certainly think so. And this can take anything from 3 or 4 days to a couple of weeks to dissolve, depending, of course, on the factor of Amazing Haste. I'm using unidirectional carbon fibre mostly for this joint, and all the fibres are in one direction, as you can see, and you can cut whatever thickness you like, the stitching holes together. It's really pretty nice to use. And I'm also going to use some of this stuff, which is called double bias carbon fibre, and it's 2 layers of carbon fibre laid 45 degrees on top of each other. Firstly, I'm going to use the unidirectional in one orientation, bulk out the edges with the double bias, and then finally wrap it with the unidirectional in the opposite orientation. Tools of the trade. Here I'm just using standard laminating resin, nothing special. I'm bulking out the edges here because when you wrap a structure with carbon fibre and you have sharp edges, the carbon fibre on those edge regions is going to compress, so you'll need extra carbon fibre there just to bulk it out. That cured pretty well, and now it's time just to sand it all back. On one of the legs I had to do a tiny bit of filling. I've got a little bit more carbon fibering to do for these legs, but for now they've finished, and so I can get on with the tabletop. We'll see you next time.